Humans are curious by nature. We want to understand how we think, feel, and behave. But sometimes that curiosity crosses a line. There are experiments in psychology that didn't just observe human behavior, they manipulated it. They pushed people beyond their limits, they broke trust. And what they revealed might make you question everything you thought you knew about people. Here are 7 psychological experiments so disturbing, they still haunt the world of science today. 1. The Stanford Prison Experiment, 1971. Imagine being told, you'll play a guard, he'll play a prisoner, it's just a simulation. But in less than 36 hours, that simulation turned into psychological abuse. Participants in this study quickly lost touch with reality. The guards, normal college students, began humiliating, degrading, and even tormenting the prisoners. They weren't told to be cruel, they just were. Because they were given power and no consequences. The prisoners, meanwhile, began to break down. Some cried uncontrollably, others became emotionally numb. One participant had to be removed due to extreme psychological distress. And here's the shocking part. The lead researcher, Dr. Zimbardo, let it continue. He was so caught up in the warden role that he didn't see the damage he was causing. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks. It ended in 6 days. The lesson? When people are given unchecked power and permission to dehumanize, things get dark, fast. 2. Milgram's Obedience Study, 1961. What would you do if someone in a lab coat told you to hurt another person? Milgram wanted to find out how far people would go in obeying authority, even if it meant inflicting pain. Participants thought they were giving real electric shocks to another person, and when that person screamed, begged, or went silent, they kept going. Why? Because the authority figure said, "Continue." Over 65% of participants delivered what they believed were fatal shocks. This experiment revealed something terrifying. Ordinary people can commit horrifying acts if they believe someone else will take the blame. It wasn't about sadism. It was about obedience and how it can override empathy. 3. The Little Albert Experiment, 1920. They wanted to prove that fear could be taught, so they used a 9-month-old baby. Little Albert was shown a white rat. At first, he loved it. But then, every time he reached for the rat, the researchers made a loud, terrifying noise. Soon, Albert began to cry at the sight of not just rats, but anything white and fluffy. He was conditioned to associate fear with innocence. And the worst part? He was never deconditioned. They left him with these learned fears and walked away. He was a baby, and they broke his trust in the world. 4. The Monster Study, 1939. This wasn't done in secret. It was done with permission, and it was supposed to help kids. Researchers wanted to see if stuttering could be created by criticism alone. So they took orphans, children who already had no voice, and split them into 2 groups. One group was praised for speaking. The other was shamed, scolded, and told they were speaking wrong, even when they weren't. Some of the children developed speech issues that lasted for life. They called it the Monster Study for a reason, because it took the most vulnerable group and used them like lab rats. 5. The Robbers Cave Experiment, 1954. This one sounds harmless at first. 2 groups of 12-year-old boys go to summer camp. They don't know about each other until they're forced into competition. Researchers created tension on purpose, rigging games, hiding things, blaming groups. Soon the boys turned on each other. They vandalized cabins, stole from one another. Physical fights broke out. The scientists watched it happen and took notes. The goal was to study group conflict and tribalism. And yes, they eventually tried to unite the boys again, but not before watching them descend into chaos, like it was all a game. 6. The Third Wave, 1967. This one happened in a high school. A teacher wanted to show how easily people can fall into fascism, so he created a movement called the Third Wave. It had rules, salutes, membership cards, punishments for nonconformity. Students obeyed. They policed each other. They turned in classmates who didn't follow the rules. They started to believe they were better than everyone else. And this happened in less than 1 week. The teacher ended the experiment by revealing the truth. The students were shocked, but the lesson was clear. Even a free-thinking classroom could turn authoritarian with the right pressure. 7. The David Reimer case, 1965. This wasn't just unethical, it was tragic. David Reimer was born biologically male, but after a botched circumcision, a psychologist advised the parents to raise him as a girl. He was never told the truth. He was given hormones, forced to live a life that wasn't his. He struggled deeply. As a teen, he discovered the truth and transitioned back to living as male. But the psychological trauma was already done. David took his own life at 38. This wasn't just an experiment. It was one man's theory pushed onto an innocent child. What do we learn from this? Every single one of these experiments reveals something uncomfortable about human nature. That we are vulnerable to authority. That we can be cruel when we think no one's watching. That empathy can vanish when science forgets to be humane. But maybe the most disturbing truth is this. Most of the people in these experiments weren't monsters. They were ordinary, just like us. So what would you have done? Understanding these stories doesn't just shock us, it warns us. That ethics matter, that compassion isn't optional, and that some questions aren't worth the cost of the answer.